Hi there, welcome back to Buy Sword and Musket, and I've been specifically asked a little question which is a very relevant question, and it's the old classic, how do I know that mine's genuine? So I'm going to take you through it, and what we're talking about are sea service pistols. So there are a lot of very good knockoffs, reproductions, guns that have been made for movies, etc. But some of those, when they move on, they change hands and they pick up a few markings and they start to look more and more genuine. So it can be a very tricky subject. So let's look closely at the sea service. I've got two here. I've got the classic long sea service. This is smothered in markings that tell me it's real, and this is a little bit more of a rare pistol. This is the short sea service. It doesn't help that all the inspection marks that I'm going to point out to you, practically all of them, you can buy as stamps and then start applying to less than 100% pistols. Now, with the long sea service, it has a belt hook on the back. There are a lot of reproduction belt hooks around. I've purchased one myself to complete this pistol, but that's in my own collection. Look at the whole thing. This is the train of thought that you should be going through when you're buying, if you really want to buy a genuine one. So look at the whole thing. What we're looking for is an all over patina, an evenness all over that looks right. All the parts must be consummate with age, is an expression I've heard used quite a lot before. But in these days, when these were made, they took a real pride in what they were doing. So stock makers and fitters would be making things fit properly. So if you've got a brass cap on the back of your pistol, which you should have, because that would turn around and be used as quite a vicious cudgel, that thing is going to fit perfectly. For a start, round the edges, apart from any minor timber shrinkage, this is going to fit perfectly all the way around. Then you look at the lock. The lock should be flush with the woodwork that it's surrounding it. Also the barrel fitment. Quite often the older pistols crack here. That's a telltale sign. Nice flush fitting brass work on the back. All over it's beaten about. It's actually got a minor split in the handle there. That's a classic from being dropped or being whacked. The timber's going to go, the grain goes this way. But let's look at the markings up close on a long sea service pistol. To start off with, there are often Board of Ordnance marks somewhere on the back of the handle. I'll get a close-up of that, but this one has got the crown, downward facing arrow, and then date of 1805. That is a Board of Ordnance mark. Other markings on the timber can be found underneath. There's a couple of small crowns under there. Now they're either inspection or ownership, but probably final inspection type marks because they're in the lacquer. They're underneath the lacquer that covers the whole thing. On the back as well, around the belt hook area, it looks to have some more characters, IG or 1G. It could be a T, but it's been hit by something. There's another mark here which looks like a 1, deeply impressed. And there's another mark there which is a crown and a P. I'll go over the pistol very closely with the camera in a second. Then you have a look at the lock plate. Tower. It should say tower. That means it was assembled in the tower. All the parts were made around in the gunmaker's district. They were all brought in and they are put together in the Tower of London. Now that has been hand chiselled in. The border is hand chiselled. The next thing is the crown and the GR, George Rex. That means George the King. Right beside that is another broad arrow and crown on its side. That is what you're looking for. You might find arrows with twos. They could be pistols made abroad or at the East India Company. All the components have got the same simple border engraving, nothing fancy there. If we look on the back or the top of the barrel, we see two more marks. These are very important marks. These are the proof and the viewing marks. Before the guns were assembled, the barrels were all proofed. They were loaded with about 4 times the charge. They had a ball stuck in there. They were all clamped down and they were all touched off with a trickle of powder. They all went off. They all fired the ball. The overcharge was to test for extreme pressure, and that was all done with black powder. So they were then viewed afterwards, inspected for cracks, and that would be just the Mark I eyeball again. So you've got the proof mark, which is a crown over cross septors, and then you've got a crown over GR and a V for viewing after the event. Now these marks have to be reasonably crisp. They're usually full of dirt and dust from ages or rust. If they were fresh or even unevenly struck or in a strange position, this is where you expect to see them. So your viewing marks should be up here. Finally, there's another crown on the rear of the Tang's strap. So we'll go over that. There is also an Enfield or crown inspection mark on the number 6 on this belt hook. We'll go over all of this up close and then I'll show you what's underneath. If you're lucky enough to have a reasonable person selling to you, or you own it already, you can then take it to pieces and look for some of the marks on the inside, which also help. Oh, there's a crown and a 12 in there, and just a random 6 or 9 up there. Now, best guide to all of those markings are one of 2 books. This one was actually written by a German researcher, and this holds all the standard directory and the history of proof marks, and that is by Gerhard Wiensberger, translated by R.A. Steindler, and that's the standard directory of proof marks. That covers all the European proofs, and what's more, if you're into German rifles, it's got a list of known German codes for the Second World War. The other one, which you could probably write to the proof house directly for, is Notes on the Proof of Shotguns and Other Small Arms. And this covers more up-to-date stuff, but once again gives you history, gives you illustrations of markings. That's the British proof marks there. Explains how it was done, why it was done, and shows a selection of foreign markings as well. So let's have a close look at the pistol. So there they are, the two of them together, the short one at the front, the long one at the back. Put the short one aside for now, and let's have a look at our long sea service. So you're looking for a sharpness that was there on the day it was done. Try to get this in focus. So there it is, the word tower, or Tower of London. Fairly self-explanatory. Quite sharp, even though it's this old. Obviously all the colour's gone from the lock, but the wording is sharp. And then let's look at the crown. Now in reference books you will see some various different crowns, but that is very much the correct crown. And you can see it's not perfect. It's kind of a bit lopsided. Well, that's a good indicator that it is genuine, because the stampers or the engravers of the time were working in terrible light. They didn't have super duper pressurized stamping machines. It was done before the metals hardened. Look at the sharpness and the detail of the actual GR, and look at the crown and the arrow on its side, the inspection or acceptance mark. It's pretty good actually for the time it was made. You know, the technology, the ability. Just moving around at a similar range, there's the BO, Board of Ordnance, and the date. The 5 isn't so easy to see, but if you catch it in the right light, you suddenly see that it's a 5. So pattern 1805, sea service, long sea service pistol. Crown, arrow, date. Turning it over, looking again at those two marks up close. They're pretty heavily hammered in there, but they're correct. They're full of dirt. There's been some distress caused to the stock at some stage over the marks. That's another good reason to believe it's for genuine. If we turn over the other side and look at the markings on the flat opposite the lock, you can see them quite clearly. Now, not all pistols will have the same number of markings, but you're looking for the basics. You see the mark on the belt hook as well. Now, moving over to these proof marks, because these really are the important ones. Look at them carefully, get familiar with them, get used to seeing them. Look for them on all British military weapons of the time, and you will get to understand what you're looking at. And there's the mark on the other side, which could be the military proof, military acceptance, and that rogue number up there, which is there for seemingly no apparent reason, but would mean something to someone in those days. Now, a good one with sea service is to pull out the ramrod, loading or cleaning rod, and look in the channel underneath. It's very clear on this pistol. I've seen it in different degrees of worn away, but a genuine pistol is going to have these marks in the ramrod channel. Now I want you to look a little bit more carefully as well at these marks now. 14, 1, 4. No idea, could be the stock maker. Then there are 3 strikes leaning backwards. Go to this end, 3 strikes. They're fairly crude, but they're very clear. You won't find those on any reproduction pistol, and I'll show you why when we look inside the lock. So I've undone the 2 main screws. Let's lay her down inside of the lock. You'd be very lucky if anybody lets you look at this, but once you've bought it, these are some of the things you'll be looking for. Okay, most obviously, officially, there is a lovely clear crown on the back of the lock with a clear 5 underneath it. But look at this. What is this? Here. 3 strikes. 1, 2, 3. Now these can vary, but you're looking for those kind of markings on components in the lock. Look at the front of the frizzen here. See it that way? No. It's clearer there. Striking marks. Here we go. There. Struck in with a heavy chisel. Ah. Where is it? There are more on this one. Oh, here. Look at these marks here. Here we go. Sorry. There. Struck in with a heavy chisel. Very intentional marks. It's not. It'd be very difficult to damage the rear face up against the stock or the barrel like that. 3 marks. Here on the bridle. On the front edge of the bridle, marks struck in. Now this would have all been because these parts were being made and filed up from castings by the lock assembler, but he would be doing a whole bunch at the same time. That was as close as they got to mass production. So he would mark all the parts for each lock and then keep them all together. Now, I have not seen, or I do not possess, a C service pistol that does not have these marks on it. So if you own one and you're really concerned, open it up, have a look, look for the marks, look carefully, and you'll find them. I've got 3 of these things, and they're all marked in the same way. Now, lastly, let's just look underneath the barrel. No, actually let's not. You'll have to take my word for it. There's more markings and there's more strikings. I don't want to pull it to pieces. It's in lovely condition. It's in genuine condition. You can see the hand chiseled out form to let everything fit. It's not been done with super duper whirling cutters. It's been cut by hand and it fits perfectly. So I hope that helps you understand what you're looking for if you want to check if your pistol is 100% a genuine piece. And that is a very clear and easy way of doing it. So you can look externally for all the external marks, and that will be marks in the woodwork and marks on the lockwork and the barrel. And you can pull the ramrod even. He shouldn't object to you pulling the ramrod if you're buying it. And you can have a look underneath and see those marks again. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me. I hope that answers your questions, especially Mr. Man from Dixie, who sent in a clear question. And maybe in the future we'll have a little get together with groups of people that want to talk about a particular pistol, and we'll go over them and we'll talk about how to tell that they're genuine as opposed to reproduction. Now, I'm not standing up and going to act for anybody in a lawsuit, but if you look carefully before you buy, you should get a feeling for whether the weapon is right and correct. If the marks are freshly struck, if they pierce all the lacquer on the woodwork and leave ragged edges, they're not smooth around the edges from the wearing of time, then you're looking at a fake. If there's no marks at all, then it's an out reproduction, probably made for a film set or made for collectors to hang on their walls. Look out for those things. I hope it helps. And come back, please click like and please subscribe, and we'll go through as many weapons as we possibly can in between trying to do some work, and talk about how we can tell that we're not being ripped off. Many of these weapons are on the website, and you can see what current offers are on display if you go to www.buyswordandmusket, and I'll see you again. Thanks.